The silence of the early morning was shattered by a sound that no one could immediately identify. Residents from different American states reported, almost simultaneously, a boom that seemed to come from the sky, as if the heavens were carrying an invisible trumpet echoing through mountains, cities, and deserts. "It felt like the very firmament was groaning," said a woman from Kentucky during a live broadcast, still trembling, holding her phone with shaky hands. Within minutes, videos began multiplying on social media, lights slicing through the sky like incandescent blades, a metallic sound resonating, and a sense of electricity in the air that made hairs stand on end. The footage quickly garnered millions of views, accompanied by desperate questions. Was it a natural phenomenon, a secret experiment, or something far greater, a sign from God? As the global audience fixated on each new video posted, experts tried to explain what was happening. Some spoke of sudden changes in the ionosphere, others of military tests, but none could offer a convincing explanation for the fact that in distant places like California, Florida, and Texas, people reported hearing the same booms at the same time, as if there were a supernatural synchronicity. The most unsettling aspect wasn't just the sound, but the visual signs, clouds forming geometric shapes, as if invisible hands were drawing symbols in the sky. A woman from Ohio described it. "It was like a shining sword piercing through the clouds. I have no other way to put it." The digital realm erupted. Hashtags like Chog Trumpets in the sky and Chong Sign from God topped Twitter within hours. In Christian forums, many shared biblical passages, especially from Luke 21:25, "And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations." Others cited Matthew 24:31, recalling that Jesus had spoken of trumpets that would sound in the last days. The discussion ceased to be solely about science and became a spiritual outcry. Some claimed it was the end of times, while others believed it was a divine awakening for a nation that had strayed from faith. However, the phenomenon wasn't confined to the skies. Hours after the booms, reports of small tremors began emerging from various regions. In Oklahoma, cracks appeared in roads. In Nevada, a small church reported that its main stained glass window shattered suddenly during the early morning, with no wind or officially recorded earthquake. The local pastor declared to his congregation, "I cannot deny what I saw. It was as if something invisible had passed through our temple. The broken stained glass seemed like a warning, as if God was saying that nothing made by human hands is unshakable." Meanwhile, in cities, the psychological impact was devastating. In New York, hundreds ran to the streets believing an attack had begun. In Los Angeles, traffic halted for minutes as drivers abandoned their cars to film the sky. In rural areas, families gathered in prayer, recalling their grandparents' stories of the rapture. Never before had so many knees touched the ground simultaneously, not because of war or human tragedy, but because the heavens had spoken undeniably. The mainstream media treated the matter cautiously, avoiding phrases like divine sign, but couldn't ignore the force of the commotion. Headlines tried to strike a balance. "Celestial phenomenon puzzles experts in the US," and "Residents describe mysterious booms in the sky." But the public didn't want technical explanations. They wanted spiritual answers. Churches filled up the following morning, with impromptu services held in parking lots and squares. Preachers raised Bibles quoting Joel 2:30-31, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come." Yet tension grew. Surveillance videos from different cities captured luminous figures crossing the skies, resembling human silhouettes but made of light. For some, they were camera glitches. For others, they were angels. A viral recording clearly showed three shapes aligned over a bridge in Michigan. The disturbing detail was the timestamp, 3:33 a.m., a number repeated in dozens of other reports. Many saw this as a code, a spiritual signature too precise to be coincidence. 3. The number of the Trinity, repeated 3 times, an urgent call. As the images spread, theologians and scholars were invited to television shows and podcasts. Some recalled that Revelation 8 speaks of the 7 trumpets announcing judgments on the earth. Others cautioned against interpreting every phenomenon as apocalyptic, but nearly all agreed that the intensity and simultaneity of the events were unprecedented. The question lingered, Why the United States specifically? Was it a divine warning to a nation built on biblical principles, but now embracing moral and spiritual decay? In the heart of cities, subtler signs emerged. People reported vivid dreams that night, crowds running, waters rising over skyscrapers, and a voice echoing, "The time is up." A young woman from Texas, in tears, shared, "I've never had visions, but I dreamed I stood before a closed golden gate. On the other side there was light and peace, but I couldn't enter. I woke up to the sound of trumpets." Her story was shared millions of times, touching hearts that had previously scoffed at the news. The escalation of signs continued. That same day, a sudden blackout hit parts of the American Northeast. Authorities claimed it was a failure in transmission lines, but many didn't believe it. For them, the combination of sky, sound, tremors, symbols, and now darkness was more than coincidence. They recalled Amos 8:9, "And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day." What seemed like a simple technical issue became, for millions, another echo of prophecy. Amid all this uproar, what began as a strange early morning transformed into a collective journey of awe, doubt, and faith. The prevailing feeling was clear. This wasn't just a natural phenomenon, it was a call. But a call to what? To where? To whom? The answers were still to come, and what seemed like the climax was merely the beginning of something greater, deeper, and more unsettling. The next day dawned with a strange atmosphere, as if the air carried an invisible weight. On the news, reporters spoke cautiously, trying to maintain a journalistic tone, but they couldn't hide their unease. Meteorologists showed radar and satellite images, admitting there was no logical explanation for the alignment of clouds in nearly perfect circles and spirals. Scientists claimed it could be a rare atmospheric anomaly, but many recalled that this same type of justification had been used for other strange events worldwide. The difference now was the intensity and global impact. The United States, the heart of world power, was at the center of something that sounded like the literal fulfillment of biblical prophecies. In Dallas, churches organized spontaneous vigils. Thousands gathered in stadiums, squares, and parking lots, praying and crying out for answers. Amid the prayers, they reported sudden gusts of wind, as if an invisible presence passed among them. Witnesses claimed to have seen pillars of light appearing and vanishing, too quick to be projectors or drones. A pastor shouted through tears, "We are living Acts 2 again. The Spirit is being poured out on all flesh." The crowd responded with songs, voices intertwining in an impromptu chorus that echoed through the streets like a national cry. Meanwhile, the signs kept manifesting. In a small Pennsylvania town, a Bible displayed in a local museum was found open on its own, without human intervention, precisely to Revelation 13. Security footage captured the page turning in the middle of the night, with no wind or anyone nearby. The news quickly went viral. For many, it was confirmation that the mark of the beast, so often discussed and sometimes ridiculed, was about to become a global reality. The passage read, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." The country, already in panic, plunged even deeper into the conviction that this was no coincidence. In coastal cities like Miami and New Orleans, residents began reporting strange changes in the sea. Fishermen returned, frightened, saying entire schools of fish had vanished suddenly, as if the waters were emptying. On some beaches, black, thick waves hit the shore, as if the ocean were expelling something hidden in its depths. Scientists suggested it could be the result of an oil spill or toxic algae, but for Christians, it was a direct echo of Revelation 8:8, which speaks of something falling into the sea and turning its waters to blood, killing marine life. "The sea is speaking as much as the sky," said a preacher in Alabama, broadcasting live while showing the strangely dark waters. In the heart of America, in Washington, D.C., political leaders called emergency meetings. Pentagon officials, NASA scientists, and representatives from various security agencies tried to craft an official version to calm the population, but the more they tried to explain, the more questions arose. Why so many simultaneous phenomena? Why in places so far apart? The theory of secret military experiments didn't convince, as even soldiers at remote bases reported hearing the booms and seeing the lights. The panic wasn't just civilian, it gripped even the most powerful institutions. In this climate of tension, prophetic voices began to rise across the country. Ordinary men and women without titles or prestigious positions reported dreams and visions. In Utah, a 9-year-old child told her Sunday school class, "I saw flaming angels descending and writing words on the ground. They said, 'Prepare for the king is returning.'" Teachers, initially skeptical, confirmed that the girl had never spoken of visions before, and that her account was so detailed, it left everyone in tears. Soon, the child's testimony spread, reinforcing the sense that even the little ones were being used to deliver a warning. As the streets filled with faith and fear, the economy showed signs of instability. The New York Stock Exchange faced a sharp drop within hours, with investors withdrawing billions in panic. Analysts spoke of speculation and distrust, but Christians saw it as another piece of the prophetic puzzle. Revelation 18 speaks of the fall of Babylon and the mourning of the world's merchants. Many began comparing the United States to modern Babylon, arguing that financial collapses were just the beginning of something far greater, the downfall of an empire that had forgotten its spiritual roots. Amid this escalation, an unexpected revelation shook the foundations further. Archaeologists working on excavations in the Nevada desert released photos of ancient inscriptions in caves that had previously been inaccessible. The images showed Hebrew symbols and figures of trumpets, etched into stones dating back thousands of years. The scientific team couldn't explain how such inscriptions could exist on American soil long before the arrival of colonists. Some speculated about contact with lost tribes of Israel, others about forgery. But for Christians, there was no doubt. It was a reminder that God's signs transcend borders and time. In New York, exactly at 3:33 a.m. the following morning, new booms resounded. Cameras captured pulsating lights hovering over Central Park, forming what appeared to be a giant eye made of energy. The phenomenon lasted only a few seconds but left everyone stunned. "I felt like I was being watched by the sky itself," said a young man broadcasting live. The timestamp of 3:33 reappeared, reinforcing the pattern. Theologians noted that the number 3 represents the Trinity, and that its repetition could symbolize a spiritual urgency, a divine code demanding attention to something unavoidable. Social media became a battleground. While atheists mocked the events, calling it mass hysteria, millions of Christians shared biblical passages and personal testimonies. Prayer live streams reached hundreds of thousands of viewers, with people crying and pleading for mercy. Many reported chills, intense heat, or even visions during the broadcasts. It was as if a spiritual wave was sweeping not only the United States, but the entire world, calling hearts to turn to God. In this context, the most terrifying reports began to emerge, sightings of mysterious figures. In cities like Chicago and Atlanta, people claimed to have seen hooded beings walking the streets, vanishing suddenly when approached. Some believed they were angels, others demonic manifestations exploiting the chaos. Security cameras captured dark shapes passing through walls and disappearing before eyes. For eschatology scholars, this was the literal fulfillment of Ephesians 6:12. "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." The tension reached its climax when world leaders began to react. The European Union, Russia, and China demanded official explanations from the US government, fearing the phenomena were the result of military technology. The Vatican issued a statement calling for calm and prayer, but the Pope emphasized in his message, "The signs are clear, and hearts must turn to Christ." Never before had the world been so focused on what was happening on American soil. What began as a night of booms now seemed to be the trigger for a global turning point, where science, politics, and spirituality intertwined in an apocalyptic scenario. And then, at the height of anticipation, the question echoed in every direction. If these signs are truly from God, what is the final message? What does he want to say to America and to the entire world with so many simultaneous manifestations? The answer seemed to be drawing near, but with it came the weight of a decision no one could ignore. The signs were not just phenomena to be observed, they were divine invitations to a choice. Every trumpet, every light, every dream was an echo of Christ's warning. "Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the time is. The world may laugh, may doubt, but the heavens have already spoken. Time does not belong to governments, nor to markets, nor to science. It belongs to God. The question that remains is not whether the signs were real, but whether you are ready. For when the last trumpet sounds, there will be no more time to decide.